Begin. Hey, welcome. This is a Monday 5:30 mindfulness meditation half hour. My name is Casey. Always great to see you. My sister's in town. I'm not the youngest sister, I guess the third oldest of us. I'm the oldest of five kids, but we've been talking a lot about meditation, mindfulness, things like that. It's been great, and just going over a lot of the points that I've talked about in these meetings. So I'm going to give her the access to the playlist of all of these meetups. I think there's over 50 of them at this point, so we've really accumulated quite a lot, which has been a lot of fun. Meditation is a study of impermanence, and when we start to embrace that aspect of the practice, we begin to take our emotions less personally. We begin to take our thoughts less seriously, less personally. Oftentimes, we take our experience so personally when really we can let go and just allow it to pass by, and really value that impermanence, which can help us to recognize and appreciate all kinds of emotions and thoughts across the spectrum of human experience, to where even if we are dealing with a difficult emotion, we can use that as a way to appreciate the techniques and the tools that we've learned through a meditation practice to be able to process and effectively deal with that emotion, oftentimes in what may feel like a counterintuitive way, which is to say we do nothing about it and we just allow it to come and we allow it to go. We just watch. One of the reasons why mindful stillness is so imperative is because unless we stop and find that stillness and start to cultivate and invest, because it is an investment, the practice of mindful stillness, if we don't find that on a physical level, it's going to be almost, if not impossible, to find any kind of stillness on an emotional or physiological and a mental or psychological level, let alone a spiritual level, if that's in your practice. And so finding that stillness on a physical level opens up the door. And of course, everything starts with the breath. The breath opens the door to the mind-body connection. That connects us to our physical body. Once we start to get comfortable and comfortable with the exploration of the stillness on a physical level, we can go a little bit deeper and start to watch what we're feeling, what we're thinking. And at first, we may take a lot of those things personally because that's what we're used to doing. And then with enough practice, with enough watching, with enough allowing things to come and go on their own, taking a hands-off approach, continuing to step back and just watch as everything changes, we become an active participant in that change instead of an unwilling or unwitting victim of our circumstances, our thoughts, our experience. And to bring the practice of meditation to the analogy of physical exercise, if you've been running for a long time, and say you run a mile every morning, and you've been doing that for a long time, you may run a mile one morning and it feels really good and it feels really easy. And you come back and you're thinking, wow, that felt great. And the next morning you do it and it's difficult. And you come back and you think that was really hard. But you don't think, oh, am I doing something wrong? Am I running incorrectly? Is everything, did the good experience from running yesterday not count because today was less than what that was? We don't need to compare it in the same way. We don't need to take it as personally, because if you run a mile, you run a mile. And the same sort of situation, the same sort of acceptance and appreciation can come with a mindful stillness, aka meditation practice, where we sit down. For me, it's 20 minutes twice a day, and you never do the same pose twice in yoga, I've said, and you never have the same meditation experience twice. Certain experiences may feel familiar. They may feel as though we've had them before. Thoughts repeat themselves, emotions repeat themselves, but all we ever experience is a present moment. And in that moment, we have an opportunity to experience our experience in a mindful, active way, as opposed to passive, unconscious. So by allowing everything to come and go, we begin to lose the personalization or the over personalization of thoughts, feelings, sensations. We don't take it as personally. In fact, if we have a really difficult meditation practice and after 20 minutes we think, God, that was rough. I felt restless. I couldn't sit still. I had to keep coming back to my breath. That was just a really rough session. you think, well, cool, actually, that I'm glad I did that. I'm glad that it was rough, because I know what it's like to have easier ones, very accessible, where it feels like it goes by very slow. And on the other side of the coin, it feels, sometimes like, um, every minute is 20 minutes. I mean, the more you practice, the more your experiences vary, the more there's a range there, and the more depth we get with our perspective, with our experience in our practice. And there's a lot of power there, because then we can appreciate whatever the experience is. We don't need to look at it in terms of good or bad. We don't need to think of it as somehow compromising the quality of our overall practice. It's just a cumulative practice where if you run a mile, you run a mile. It doesn't really matter too much what happens during that mile. What matters most is that you've taken the time to run that mile. Or back to the practice of meditation, if you sit still for 20 minutes, it doesn't really matter how easy or how difficult that 20 minutes was, you've done it. And once we accumulate and continue to accumulate mindfulness, mindful stillness, and meditation sessions, the more we accumulate that practice, the more long-term benefits we get. Obviously, 20 minutes twice a day, each one of those sessions is more short-term. And as such, we don't need to take it as a direct reflection of our overall practice. In the beginning, as we're establishing a meditation practice, it is more imperative that we actually sit down and do it, where we hold ourselves to a particular standard and just watch, make it a point to just watch, because we will feel attached. We will feel threatened by certain parts of our experience. And the hardest part is to just let that go, to just watch and be as passive but active as possible. I've said before that meditation is a practice of passive activity, or active passivity. And there's a sutra, a Buddha sutra. It's often referred to as the Diamond Sutra. Thich Nhat Hanh has one, a translation and commentaries, where it's called the diamond that cuts through illusion. It's a very heady existential study of reality, and very, very cool, very philosophical, kind of a brain teaser for a lot of people, myself included. But one of the things that I really like is something that the Buddha says at the end of the sutra. And he says, all composed things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. That's how to meditate on them. That is how to observe them. I'll say it one more time. I like it. Very poetic. All composed things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. That is how to meditate on them. That is how to observe them. By allowing our thoughts to come and go, we get to embrace that impermanence. We get to study that impermanence. We get to experience that impermanence firsthand in real time. Because it's one thing to know that everything changes, but to actually be a part of that process, be a part of that practice, is a completely different thing. We're stepping out of the theoretical knowledge that, yes, everything changes, this too shall pass, et cetera, and we're stepping into the experiential wisdom of really being a part of that, and not just knowing at an intellectual or theoretical level that, yeah, this will pass, because that doesn't really offer much help when we're in the midst of a very difficult moment or emotion, or dealing with difficult thoughts. Knowing that it's going to change really doesn't help us. If we practice being a part of that change and really examining and exploring that change, continuing to take a hands-off approach, coming back to ourselves, coming back home, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say it, with that practice comes the insight and the liberation, the understanding that brings us so much deeper into that practice. We can say that everything changes, but until we sit down and actually notice that change and allow ourselves to experience it and become an active participant in that impermanent nature of not just meditation, but the existence of life, or our existence, until we really dive into the experiential part, it'll all just be theory. So I definitely want to make sure that we got some experiential practice here. So find a comfortable seated position. Shoulders roll up, back, and down. Close your eyes. A few cycles of breath, if you'd like, in through your nose and out through your mouth. starting to come back to yourself, get grounded, situated, get comfortable. And when you're ready, you can seal your lips, continue breathing naturally, mindfully in and out through your nose. All composed things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. That is how to meditate on them. That is how to observe them. Take a few deep breaths. Whenever you're ready, gently blink your eyes open. Excellent. With the time change and the weather changing and everything, I'm going to fall into my practice even more. I'm going to take refuge in my meditation mindfulness practice. And as always, I appreciate you sharing your practice with me, letting me share my practice with you. The Buddha says, be a refuge unto yourself. There is no other refuge. And I take extra care with that this time of year. So thank you very much for sharing your practice, and we'll see you soon.